Hey YouTube, welcome to the Off-Grid Mountain Homestead. Might be wondering what in the world this contraption is right here. Well, before to end this video, I will explain it completely. I've been looking into vermicomposting, which is, feeding worms, your food scraps and leaves and rabbit poop and whatever. And, of course, getting worm castings off of them, which is probably one of the best nutrient-rich fertilizers you can use for your garden. And I was looking at some online, looking at different plants for the last few weeks, and, there's commercial made ones and stuff like that. Well, it just so happened I had a bunch of spare Trex boards that were given to me, and I was like, well, I'd use them boards on something here and there. I said, well, they're weatherproof, they last forever, so why don't use them to make a worm bin? Pardon the interruption, but I'm going to show you also using all the spare Trex to make more beds and stuff. So my buddy that gave me all this Trex, I appreciate that, because it's not going to waste. It's being used to make all kinds of new beds. So this is on a pretty good slope right here. So just making beds out of that Trex. Good stuff. One man's trash, another man's treasure. So had some scrap lumber, made a stand for it. All scrap Trex. Got some bee queen excluders that are not the right specification. So I'm using them for an extra screen because I didn't have 1/4-inch hardware cloth. I used 1/2-inch hardware cloth in the bottom of the bins. But this is a stackable version. Let me open it up first, and then I'll show you the additional screens and how it works. Mess Off Grid's going to open this up because this lid's heavy. It weighs about 25 pounds. I made it heavy on purpose to keep the raccoons and stuff from digging in. But you see, I've got some rabbit poop, some straw, cardboard, leaves, and I put one under the rabbit pens. You had to dig through where the rabbits have been making soiled spots, but I put about 300 worms in here to start with. So the worms will work on all this and condense it into castings. You just keep this fed with table scraps, like different food scraps like potatoes and bananas and just stuff like that. No meat, anything like that. Just coffee grounds, tea grounds. I'm going to give them any rabbit feed that falls out, hay, straw, stuff like that that's composting down, rotten tomatoes, rotten strawberries, etc. So they'll turn all this stuff into valuable vermicompost, worm castings, if you will. So yeah, started with a big pile of worms, and rule of thumb when you're vermicomposting is however much biomass worth of worms you have. Say if we have a pound of worms, they'll process a 1/2 pound of material. So I probably have a good 5 pounds of worms in here, so we should be able to process 2.5 pounds of material. So, and the bed is 2 foot by 2 foot, and each layer is 6 inches deep. So let me show you the other layers and how it'll actually work when this bottom layer is complete. The worm bin sits in a shady spot where there's no sun, so it doesn't get overheated, because you can't get your worms too hot or it'll kill them. So keep that in mind too. Find you a nice shady spot where no sun can heat the box up, and that'll help you out a lot too. And keep the moisture similar to a wrung out sponge, just a little moist but not soaking wet and not dry, because that'll kill them just as quick as them cooking in the sun. So here's the second layer. I got three layers. They're all the same. You can see the hardware cloth that's attached to them. So once they process that lower layer, and it's mostly all worm castings, it's filled up with worm castings all up to the screen on this layer. Then you can start adding your food and debris in this, and the worms will come up from the bottom layer, kind of like a beehive. They'll stay in the bottom and start working their way up through the layers, and then get this layer composted. Then you'll throw your third layer on and just do the same. And by the time this third layer gets most of the way broken down into worm castings, the bottom layer will be completely composted, safe to use on anything you want to use. This will be completely broke down, composted worm casting. So then you'll just take the top 2 layers off, take your bottom tray, and then dump it into your container to save your worm castings, and then just start all over again. And it's just a revolving system. So as the top one starts to finish, the bottom one's completely done, and you just rotate them and keep refilling them and keep it going. So the screen between each one, they move up through each one. And the lid does have some gaps in it. I did that on purpose so we could get some moisture in there from rain. Real tight gaps, so not a lot of moisture is going to come in when it rains, so don't flood them out. But you know, the bottom tray is just like this, so any water can just go straight through. And then I added the queen excluder size on here is to help keep any, you know, big worms that want to leave or evacuate. That'll help keep them in and keep the bedding on that bottom layer from sagging through. So it's stapled into that wood so it can't move. So that screen on the bottom one sits directly on that beehive queen excluders, and they go all the way through. So it makes a seal, and built it, you know, heavy so nothing could knock it over. Just removable lid, you know, just simple, just stuff I had laying around. So, you know, instead of spending 150, 200 bucks on one from the store, I spent about 3 hours cobbling pieces together and making a, you know, a worm box that should last many, many years and give us plenty of worm compost, worm castings. And I can also put rabbit poop in here. A lot of people say that worms don't eat rabbit poop, it's too nitrogen rich. Well, I got 200 of my worms straight from underneath the rabbit pen. So you know, don't believe everything you read on the internet. One more thing too, I don't know if I mentioned it a second ago, but I'm gonna mention it again. I put handles on each tray, so you and your significant other or friend or whoever's gonna help you can lift these trays and move them, because when that's full of poop, that's gonna weigh like 60 pounds plus the box, and the box weighs 20 pounds, just the Trex, because that's real thick. That's like 1 1/8 Trex. It's real thick, so it's already heavy. So you're gonna need handles if you build one like this, so a buddy can help you lift it up and swap the trays out. But you know, just temporary levelers right now. I gotta find some spare bricks and stuff, all that. But you know, spare Trex boards to level it up. Just, you know, stuff I had laying around, make something out of it. But anyhow, I hope you liked today's video. I'm gonna show you some of these little night crawlers here as we're digging through, making sure they're settling in. None of them have decided to evacuate the premises yet, so that's a good thing. But you know, we're just starting this journey into vermicomposting. So hadn't had a worm box that size as a kid for fishing worms. This is a little different style for a different purpose, but if I want to go down to the trout stream and go fishing, there we go right there. Go snag a big old rainbow. Anyhow, I hope you liked the video. If you don't mind, hit the like button. Questions, throw them in the comments. If you're not subscribed, I'd greatly appreciate a subscription. Thank y'all for watching the Off Mountain Homestead. Hope you have a nice day.